Hi, it is Wednesday, which means it is Q&A Wednesday. I am Melissa Fillmore, and I'm here to tell you exactly what it is that you probably need to know about being healthy. So tonight we have a really great topic. I'm super excited about it. And you know what? It's one of those funny things that I find you think that people know, but when it comes right down to it, a lot of people have no idea really how muscle's built. And so I'm going to keep it really super simple today. We're going to talk we're not going to get too detailed, too scientific, and really give you just the basics on how to build muscle. And of course, everybody's a little bit different as to what their goal is when it comes to strength and lifting. But I'm here to tell you that you do need to have some sort of strength training program. It doesn't really matter what your goal is, but if you're simply doing cardio to lose weight or lose fat in general, you're really missing out on a whole element that is going to be super effective and super efficient because, of course, muscle is kind of a natural fat burner. And so, you not only do you need the shape that it provides, but it really helps raise up your metabolism. It kind of not really a trick as we get older when our metabolism drops, but there's definitely some things we can do to support that. So we're going to talk a little bit about really just the basics on how to build muscle. And it was really funny because when hi, Jenny. When I posted this today, I had a lot of response on both Instagram and Facebook, people jumping in and really telling me what they thought. And you know what? In general, they were really right. I find that it's super simple, but it's not easy, if that makes sense. Because most people that I work with, they might have one or two elements that they need in how to build muscle, but they're missing something. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, if you have questions, I love when you guys pop up because it really tells me that, number one, if you have questions, hi, Sandy, and hello, Robert, that I'm meeting your needs. I'm answering your questions because really it comes down to education. When I first really started to get healthy and kind of change my life for a healthier option, it really came down to education. I just didn't know. And so, of course, now almost 10 years later, I've really educated myself on how to be as healthy as possible, and I've been able to maintain it. So going from 210 pounds at 5'2" to now, of course, now I bounce around depending on what I'm doing. I'm super happy right now that I don't look like I'm half dead, right? You guys kind of have seen me get little and big and little and big and little big, and that's kind of how we go in the bodybuilding world. But in general, I'm super happy to have more energy at this point. Hey, Sarah, gosh, how you doing, honey? I hope you are doing fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about it. When it comes to muscle, everybody's goals are different. For a woman, we all want to be toned. Now, let's address that really quick because, of course, I giggle all the time when I hear women say, well, I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, honey, you're not going to get bulky. You can't. As women, we don't produce enough testosterone, nor do we eat enough food to get bulky. Now, you might look bulky if you are putting some muscle on, but you're not doing anything about the food that you eat, and so you're not really burning fat. That can look bulky, and I always tell people, cupcakes make you bulky. Lifting doesn't make you bulky, but eating a bunch of junk on top of lifting might make you look or feel bulky. Hi, Paul. And hey, Steph. Gosh, I haven't talked to you in forever either. So, what it comes down to is what your goals are. And of course, lifting is part of it because you have to break the muscle down to build it back up, right? We call it building muscle for a reason. How it works is that, when you lift heavy, and we're going to talk really quickly in a second here about, I have to look at my notes because, it's the end of the day, something called progressive overload. And I'm going to give you the description and give you, the definition of that in just a second. But when you break the muscle down and you create micro tears in the fiber. Now that's a little different than tearing the muscle. Micro tears is what happens when we lift heavier than our bodies has become accustomed to. It breaks down the muscle fiber, which then your body has to rebuild by building a new layer over top of it. That's why we call it building muscle. And in order to do that, you have to do something called progressive overload, which means if you've been going to the gym and you've been lifting the same amount of weights and doing the exact same exercises for more than a few weeks, you're not going to build muscle from that because your body gets used to it. It gets very efficient at it very, very quickly. It's kind of like how I use cardio as a tool because when you do cardio, your body adapts to it really, really quickly. It's the one time where you don't want your body to be efficient. So when it becomes efficient, it doesn't have to work as hard. That's how marathon runners can run 26 point whatever miles because their body adapts to it. It becomes very good at it. It becomes very efficient. When it comes to building muscle, we don't want our body to be efficient there so much as well. Now, there is something called neuromuscular adaptation. Now, we do want our nervous system to know that we're going to be lifting and we're going to participate in that. We also want that mind-muscle connection of knowing that our body knows how to to process it. It knows how to do the activity correctly. But we still have to provide a new adaptation or a new demand on that muscle in order for it to not only build, but even maintain. If your body doesn't believe that you continuously need that muscle, it will actually break it down. Okay. So that's why, when you stop lifting, you actually can lose that muscle fairly quickly. Now, fortunately, most of us have some sort of muscle memory where it takes about a third of the time to build that back up, but you've got to keep lifting in order to even just maintain that. So lift heavy. So here's what the description of progressive overload was on like Wikipedia, which, sometimes Wikipedia is great. Sometimes it's just not so great, but it was pretty appropriate here. It says for muscle to grow, whether it's strength or increased performance, the human body must be forced to adapt to a tension above and beyond what it previously has experienced. Okay. And sometimes that is weight. Actually, weight is one of the easiest variables to change when it comes to strength training. Because, if 10s are too light, you just go grab 12s. Now, that's not always appropriate. Most of us do kind of have a threshold where, honestly, there's no way I'm going to be able to squat 300 pounds and my body just can't handle it. So maybe I'm going to have to make a different adaptation, which might come down to intensity. It might come down to volume, how many reps I'm doing. It might come down to hand or foot placement for whatever activity that I'm doing. So there are other ways to do that. But in general, you need to do it in a way you haven't done it before. Okay. So keep that in mind. So lifting is part of it. Breaking down the muscle is part of it, but it's only a portion of it. You also have to eat right. Now, I know multiple people posted this earlier today, and it is true. You actually have to provide your body with the ingredients. Now, what your body uses to build muscle is protein, the amino acids and protein. Now, there's something called a complete protein. Your body needs a number of different amino acids, and it needs them in the right amounts in order to build. Unlike a cake, if you were to bake a cake and maybe you forgot, say, the baking soda, you're baking it from scratch and you forget the baking soda, that cake might look weird when it bakes. It might taste a little bit funky if you leave out an ingredient, but it still will bake. But your body, if you don't give your body the right amount of the right amino acids, it doesn't even try to bake the cake. It doesn't even try to build the muscle. It just either takes it from your current muscle, right? It actually will break down muscle to try and rebuild itself. I know it's kind of counterproductive, but that's what it does. Or it just doesn't even try. So in order to build the muscle, you have to supply your body with the right ingredients. Now, that's where macros come in. It's not just calories, and it's not just junk. You can't just eat a bunch of calories of whatever. You have to eat the right amount of macros depending on what your goals are. So, you do have to eat a certain amount of protein so that your body can pull the right amino acids. You have to eat a certain amount of carbs. Sorry, keto people. You have to eat carbs so that your body doesn't steal it from the proteins and turn the proteins into energy, which it can do. So when I'm growing, I actually eat more carbs in order to support the fact that my body won't burn the protein for my energy source, because I need it. I need it to build. I've got lots of people say, don't say cake. She wants the chocolate cake from Costco. Be strong, Lynette. So again, having enough protein, having enough carbs, and there is an important part for fats. You need all three of those macronutrients in order to run efficiently for your body to do the best that it possibly can. Fats come into play as well. And I know they got such a bad rap in the early 90s. Those of you who are my age, remember all the low fat garbage. Again, it doesn't matter what macronutrient we're talking about. There's always great options of those macronutrients, and there's always some not so great options. If we're talking carbs, my frustration with keto is that I don't believe that you should cut out carbohydrates. You should cut out crap, right? And there are some carbohydrates that are good. Your complex carbohydrates, your oats, your rice, just not instant. Things like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, as long as you're not going baker potatoes. I use Yukon Gold or red fingerling potatoes. All of those provide something that your body needs, which is the energy source. Now, how much of that you provide depends upon your goals at the moment. If you provide too much of that, then your body doesn't use fat as fuel, right? So I don't believe that you should cut out, because you've got benefits in the right type of macronutrients. Fats are there for a reason. If you're eating good fats, and we're talking things like avocados, coconut oil, olive oil, there's definitely some good options, and then there's some not so great options. Trans fats, deep fried foods, obviously not a good option. I don't know about you. I eat so clean that I can't even eat those kind of options anymore because my body responds in a really negative way. I try to eat things like even popcorn, not so great for my body at this point. So I kind of have to make a choice to not eat it because I don't want to feel like that. But you need fats in order for hormone synthesis and also distribution of nutrients within your system. And it does actually help with recovery. So again, you have to eat the right nutrients, and you have to eat really good, clean foods, because that's where your body is receiving not just the macronutrients, but the micronutrients. Your body needs vitamins, minerals, fiber, all of those things to actually build, right? And help your cells to, I can't even think of the word today, to respond, right? You've got to recycle and rebuild new cells. So if you're eating the right nutrients, you also, depending on where you're going, when I build, I actually have to eat a surplus of calories. If I'm always at a deficit, your body cannot grow. Now, granted, those need to be clean calories, right? We just talked about that. But in order to actually build muscle mass, you have to be eating more than you're burning. And that's an important part of it. Now, for people who are extremely overweight and have a long ways to go, there is some sort of ability to build alongside of burning those fat cells off. It takes a little bit longer, but it is doable. But for those of us that are already pretty lean, every season I have a lean out season, and then I have a building season, because I do have to take in more nutrients. I have to take in a surplus of calories and nutrients in order to build the size that I want. So that is an important part of it. So nutrition plays a huge role. Now, as a trainer, when I very first started 8-9 years ago as a trainer, I didn't really approach nutrition as much when I worked with people, just because I thought, well, if they just want to pay me for training, I'm going to just do training. However, now having a lot of experience in that, I will not work with someone if they won't work with nutrition, because that is such a huge part of being able to build muscle. And of course, muscle builds shape, right? And ladies, if you want to tone, you have to build some muscle. That's where the tone comes from. Fat has no shape, except for maybe cellulite shape. So in order to get where you want to go, you have to take that into consideration. So those are the first two. You have to lift heavy, right? You have to have that progressive overload, and you have to have the right nutrients and the right nutrition. Number 3, you have to get enough sleep. It's a hard switch for me when I go from lean out season to grow season, because all of a sudden my body just needs more sleep, and I forget that that's the situation each time, and I have to account for that when I schedule myself. So that's part of it. You don't grow when you lift. You break the muscle down when you lift. You grow when you rest and recover, right? So again, you can't lift 7 days a week, especially if you're lifting super heavy, and think that your body is going to build. It doesn't have time to respond. It doesn't have time to recover and grow. So the times that you're going to grow is when you're giving yourself enough sleep. So if you struggle to even get 5, 6, 7 hours, you're going to struggle to put on the muscle that you really want. There's a couple things that happen. Not only when you sleep do you recover, but there's a portion of your sleep, you have sleep cycles, right? There's different times you go through REM sleep. You have different parts of those sleep cycles where your body does different things. When you hit that deep, deep sleep, your body resets, okay? Not only that, you actually that's where your body produces your natural growth hormone. So in order to get the benefits of recovery and the benefits of growth, you have to hit that deep sleep. So I know that it's a struggle for people who do like shift work and things like that, because again, sometimes they struggle to hit the full cycle of sleep each time, and so they're struggling to get that reset and that recovery that they need. So it's super important. If you're not seeing the results that you want when it comes to strength training, there's something that you're missing. You need to look back through these. What am I not doing? Am I not getting enough sleep? And again, that's probably been my biggest stressors the last couple of years in growth, is just not getting enough sleep. I've kind of got everything else figured out, but really that rest and recovery is where I've struggled a little bit. And also to remember that the quality of sleep is important, because again, you have to hit all of those sleep cycles in there. So again, if you're not seeing the results, which one of those are you missing? Now, I know that there's more detail that we could go into, but really it comes down to, are you paying attention to each of those? Are you putting enough effort in each of those? Are you getting the right nutrients? Are you lifting heavy enough? Are you lifting correctly? Are you changing up how you lift every once in a while so that your body has to realize there's a new demand? So I've got a couple of tips for you, and then we'll end this for today. Again, I could give you tons of tips, but I've got my top 2 for today. I find this super funny. I don't know what it is about guys and leg day, and I find it really not just fascinating, but frustrating, because especially if they want to build, a bigger chest, you should still do legs. You release more growth hormone when you work on quads. I've actually been in a situation where, on a day that I really need more excess growth, I'll do a partial leg workout, maybe some leg presses or something that gets my quads participating and gets them moving, gets them part of that, in order to really provide that extra growth hormone for whatever muscle group that I'm working, whatever accessory I'm working that day. So guys, come on, even if you want a bigger chest, do you realize you're going to get way more support from your body if you actually don't forget leg day? Not only that, but you'll look ridiculous when you have a huge upper body and little bitty legs. Yeah, it's a joke, but it's true. I see it all the time. It just really frustrates me. My second one is, a lot of people really focus on isolation exercises. I'm just going to do biceps today. I'm just going to do triceps. Don't forget the compound movements. The compound movements are working multiple muscle groups all at once. It's a very efficient way to get more done. I know people are popping stuff up, but let me finish my thought process and then I'll get back to you. Don't forget the compound movements. Do some squats, especially, there was a time period where I couldn't do a whole lot of squats. Part of it was that was having some serious chronic issues with my back. But also it was a struggle to find a trainer or a coach who would work with me on that. I think because they were really afraid of it. But there's certain things in certain shape that you get with squats. It's almost the perfect leg workout, because if you're doing it right, you're getting both front and back side of the legs, right? So you get a little bit of everything. But those compound movements are getting way more muscle groups in there. Plus you're getting stabilizers and you're getting core workout at the same time. So don't forget, switch it up once in a while and do some of the compound movements or even the big, exercises. Okay. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. I know I'm simplifying this a ways, but I really find it interesting that all people don't know how they build muscle. They're missing a component. And as soon as we start to focus on balancing that out through the different things we've talked about today, they start to actually see results. Now, there are a few things that can kind of fight against growth. That's something maybe we'll talk about next week. But again, start with that. See if you're missing any of those options. Get that dialed in and see if you can't put on some size. Okay. So hopefully that answers your questions. And I know somebody was saying something about sleep cycles. Maybe we'll talk about that again. It's been a while since we talked about how important sleep is. But anyway, have an incredible weekend, or have an incredible week. I know it's Wednesday. Meals with Melissa, Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And other than that, have an incredible evening, you guys. We'll see you soon.